Turning now to a new warning about mask wearing, as well as a new report of a man said to have been reinfected with the coronavirus. Earlier, I spoke with Dr. Imran Ali. Dr. Ali, good morning and thank you for joining us. A man in Hong Kong has reportedly become the first patient to be reinfected with the coronavirus. What does this suggest about immunity?
This man was originally infected with COVID-19 back in March, and he had traveled across different continents and came back to Hong Kong and was screened at an airport and found to be positive again August 15th. Now, researchers have done a genomic sequencing of the virus, and they found that he was infected with a similar but slightly different variation of COVID-19. Not necessarily a different strain, but it does show that you are able to get reinfected.
And there's a new study on people who wear their mask halfway, meaning that they cover their mouth but not necessarily their nose. What's the takeaway from that study?
Well, this is a pet peeve of mine. I always want to just take that mask and pull it up because people don't realize that our nose has a lot of receptors. Now the virus needs a receptor. It's kind of like a doorway for the virus to come into the cell, and it's called ACE2. Now, we have a lot of these receptors in our nose, more so than we have in our lungs, in our lower respiratory tract. So you're at a higher risk of catching the virus if the virus enters your nose. So it's very important to keep those nose covered.
Dr. Ali, this is a surprising headline. The CDC has dropped its recommendation for travelers to quarantine for 14 days upon returning from trips overseas or out of the state. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, now remember, this was a recommendation, not a mandate. The virus in other parts of the world have been, it has gone down in many parts of the world, especially in Europe. The hot spots right now are Brazil and India. And so it still is important to understand where you're going because it's a very fluid situation. Things can change on a week-by-week basis.
Lastly, ABC News has obtained video of a saliva test for COVID that's being used in the NBA before it's released to the public. How significant could that test be?
This is very exciting, Mona, because this is something that's very cheap. It can be as cheap as a couple of dollars per test. It can be done faster, and we can really ramp up testing to a broad audience and get really a handle of where the virus is and try to isolate people as much as we can.
Our thanks to Dr. Ali. And